Happy full moon, Julie.
Happy full moon, Sarah. Here we are.
We are, well, we're kind of on the other side of it, but I think we're still in the full moon zone energy.
I think the full moon is the day before, the day of, and the day after.
I agree. I
It's
agree
just too big up there. If you look at the moon, it still looks full.
very much. And I still
You
can't
can see it.
and
It's still what?
still can't get to sleep the night after. So
Right. I had a wonderful sleep last night myself. That's another story, though. We don't really need to share that with everybody.
must have been a good
So
massage.
huh?
It must have been a good massage.
I would say hats off to your work. It was the first sleep I had in 3 nights. Yeah.
Yay.
Um, So that was good. So I feel kind of sane today in a strange way. Yeah. So this full moon is at one, it's kind of cosmic to have a full moon at the solstice. Although I don't know if it's just my life as an old person, but it feels to me like um it's very hard to feel the sacredness of the solstice, of the turning of the solstice, right? So the full moon is when the moon is opposite the sun. And the solstice is like the full moon of the year,
Right.
because the night is short and the day is at its longest, right? The winter solstice is like the new moon of the year, and the summer solstice is like the full moon of the year. So it's quite it's quite the sacred geometry to have the full moon and the first day of summer together.
Right. It's very full. We can say it's a very
Fullness,
full experience.
right. And
Fullness.
it's very hard to feel the fullness of experience in the world today, given how the world is like careening off its, wheels. It's going around the corner and we're afraid it's going to be, a wreck once it turns.
That's
So
another
I
that's
think that, huh?
gonna say that's another full moon sort of stereotype of, the craziness.
Yeah. Yeah.
That-
High wild and whatever.
yeah.
So we live in a high wild world, where 20-year-olds are billionaires and scamming is like part of the course and all that stuff. And um, I think that the manic progression of dominator culture really diminishes the sacredness of what's happening around us, and that we're part of. So all I can do is name that. But it is interesting that there are two full moons while the sun is in Cancer. One is at the very beginning, but that's yesterday, and the other one is the other full moon in Cancer is on July 21st, and it's at the last degree of Capricorn, right? So this is at the second degree of Capricorn. It's in the number 1 degree, and the full moon in a month will be at 29 degrees. So
Mhm.
it's like bookends. It's like bookends, right? And I think it used to be back in the old days, which I don't remember, you don't remember, that summer was when you did all the work, right? Summer was a time when you really worked hard because the fruits of your work was going to feed you through the winter. And so the full moon in Capricorn really, Capricorn says we should be we should be working hard. We should be making, not working hard as in misery, but we should be making effort,
Mhm.
right? So when you look at the early degree and the late degree, there's a story there, in the sense that the 29 degrees is the anoretic degree.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's considered malefic, I think, by the ancients, for reasons I won't go into. But if you divide up I don't know, the terms and faces, you get, it's always ruled by a malefic. But I think we have to, let the dead guys go and just figure it out for ourselves. So how I see 29 degrees is that it's the ultimate liminal degree, right? It's like we've finished something, but we haven't started the next thing. Like we're done with Capricorn in this case, but we haven't started with Aquarius.
Right.
So for those who are of an astrological bent, which I assume you would be if you're watching this, Pluto's at 29 degrees this year. Neptune's at 29 degrees this year. Uranus is at 29 degrees next year. Like, so within, yeah, like, so we are in a liminal moment.
Liminal moment. It's a wait for it moment. Wait for it.
Where is that other shoe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
So I think I observe this in the general feeling that people have of like something has to happen, but what is it? Should I do something? Right? But it's not making enough of a difference because in that liminal moment, it's like a, you know, wave breaks and then there's undertow. It's like being caught in the undertow,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, but it's pretty. So the 29-degree full moon in July 21st is definitely a signature of Pluto going to be at 29 degrees of Capricorn in September, October, November, but also the Neptune. I think it's picking up a lot of that energy.
Well, you've set quite the scene and quite the you know, quite the sort of symbolism for an energy for what's happening here in terms of, we know that Pluto, everything that happened from 2008 leading right up to 2020 with Pluto and Capricorn, as we've talked about, as you've talked about, as been talked about, the, you know, like the breaking down of all of our structures of government, of our foundational pieces that hold our underpinning, our have been being upturned by Pluto, the underbelly being exposed, the destruction of it so that it can be rebuilt, hopefully. But we're still in the destruction phase. 2020 saw like that go into on steroids. And now Pluto did move into Aquarius, but it's coming back in September to, like you said,
One last time, yeah.
one last time for another 276 years, right? It won't be there 200 odd years, right?
Whatever, 248, I forget. Yeah.
Right. So it's so dramatic. It's so
It
dramatic.
is dramatic. I feel like I'm watching an outrageous, I don't know, play, and I'm in the audience, but I'm not in the audience.
Right. Yeah, like in a way it does have that sense of it being like there hasn't been a time like this, or like it has that sort of real life drama to it in terms of and then you mentioning about this, about all of the planets at the 29 degree, with, you know, Uranus being at 29 degrees Taurus and Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, and then you've got, what else? You've got Pluto going to
Pluto.
29 of Capricorn.
And if you want to add to that, next March, Mercury and Venus are going to, Mercury and Venus are going to be retrograde, and they're going to go back and forth across 29 degrees Pisces and Aries, exactly when Neptune's going to go from 29 to 0.
Oh my God.
March, April. It's so wild. And I suppose maybe I'm fishing, but Mars is going to be retrograde December through February, and it will go back and forth across 29 Cancer and 0 Leo, which is opposite Pluto, right? So it's also going to trigger the 29-degree thing. But I think more dramatic is Mercury and Venus retrograde in the same time period when Neptune is ingressing into Aries
For the first time.
for the first time.
Because we know when a planet ingresses into a sign for the first time, that's when the most dramatic sort of stage setting gets placed. Like, oh, this is what this is
Yeah,
about.
it kind of unloads it unloads the picture of what it's going to do over the next 15 years.
The four
Yeah,
chakras.
so 0 degrees and 29 degrees are very different, right? 29 is this undertow where you just can't get any traction, and 0 is, well, here's the whole thing coming. Here's what's coming at you. Here's the wave going to break.
You. Yeah. Wow. I know. You coined a new term yesterday that I really liked, which is it's looking very 29 degrees out there.
Yes, it's looking very 29 degrees out there.
This saying going, like, how are you? I'm very 29 degrees.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so my deep reverence for astrology has to do with the way I can apply it in my life as I live it, not in some fantasy, but as I'm actually living it.
Mhm.
And even better, or maybe just as good, is when I can help other people do that when I read their charts. Like, it's very exciting to me that it's so messy and chaotic down here, but the planets are so predictable and so comforting in a way if we can orient ourselves towards them.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking that it might help people to understand that we're in this 29-degree liminal period, and it won't last forever.
Yeah. No, I think that is one of the gifts of astrology. Predictions aren't really that helpful. It's more about the navigational tool.
Hmm.
And I would invite anybody that's watching or listening, if you have questions or if you have questions about how to apply it or have a question for Julie, to go ahead into the comments and ask. And if there's something that you want Julie to speak about next time, write it in the comments.
Sarah, too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So
So in all of this mess, huh?
how would you apply? Could you give us an example of how you would apply something like the 29 degrees of Pluto going into, I guess it would depend on people's charts.
Well, I would understand that I'm caught in any given moment, especially when I think about the world. I'm caught between an inhale and an exhale. I'm in that moment where I'm neither inhaling or exhaling, and I'm neither exhaling or inhaling, right? It's that moment that mostly we just ignore, but when you think about it, it's quite cosmic, right? So I
When all
kind of,
exchange of gases takes place.
yes. Yeah, you probably know more about what happens in the body with that, but it feels to me like a moment of deep letting go and allowing the world to show me what I need to see, as opposed to me taking the world by storm. So that's how I'm applying it in my life. Of course, I'm in my 70s. It's kind of, I don't want to make everyone act like they're in their 70s. It's such a baby boomer thing, right? Oh, come on, you guys. You could all just, act like an old person. Yeah. I understand that at 20 and 40, it's different. So, but nonetheless, we're all caught in this undertow feeling, and do what you do. You know what I mean? Take to the streets, explode Taylor Swift's jet. It's all good. But understand that it doesn't have to, it's not time yet, I guess, in the sense where it starts to engage and move on the rails in some way. So a lot has to fall apart before we can come together. And you can see it, you can see the falling apart and the coming together. I don't think we should all just go to sleep. Um, so on a personal level, it just allows me to calm down when I'm feeling really agitated. Pluto will go back into Aquarius and stay there at the end of November, right? And then Neptune will go into Aries at the end of March. It won't stay there though. It'll go into Aries, it'll come back, and then I don't think Uranus goes into Gemini until July of 25,
Right.
2025.
Okay. And I mean, the best breathing waves birth. These are all the, you know, the great symbols of liminal space, right? Of the inhale, the exhale, of like moving literally from one state to another state, right? Like when you're in the middle of contracting and pushing down and this baby's coming out and you're in great pain in the struggle to push, or the whole body's contracting, that's when that's when you have to surrender the most. That's when you have to let go the most.
Right. Yeah, you have to let go in pain.
Yeah.
It's
And
very
then
hard.
and you have, and the more that you're able to go with the motions and not fight against either one or try to control it, then the easier it goes. Not to say that birth is easy, but the easier it goes when you're
That's
able.
such an interesting image because there's a lot of pain in letting go in that. And I think the world is in a lot of pain right now.
Yes. Yeah.
What am I supposed to let go into? You know, the suffering is over the top. Yeah.
Yeah. The suffering is, somebody I listened to said that they felt that the collective was in the dark night of the soul in a way, and it does feel like that, because there is a new meaning that is needing to be birthed. People need to have a center, you know, of all the structures of all the religions and all the, you know, institutions that we had that brought meaning to us are dying. We need a new center, a new meaning to form around,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And 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 that isn't something that just you can just sort of create. It has to be it has to emerge like a baby.
Right. So Pluto in Aquarius, I mean, Pluto in Capricorn showed us the rot in all the corporations and the corporate structure of, I don't know, the capitalist system, but what's it going to show us in Aquarius, right? It's going to show us also where the change needs to happen big time, and that's really in the technology and in the way that we come together as groups. You know, we're going to have to come together, but it's not that easy to come together in a time when everybody's starting to think about fighting over the water hole.
Right. So we've got our work cut out for us, but the thing with breathing is we have enough experience of it that usually the next breath comes without thinking about it. Or
Indeed.
when we're giving birth to a baby, we do have some awareness, most of us, that there is going to be a baby. But when you don't know what the end result is going to be, it's hard to remain, you know,
But you know, when you're giving birth, you know there could be a baby, but you know you could lose the baby. It's a dangerous thing to give birth.
yeah, or die. That's
Or
also,
yeah, that's what I mean. So the baby can be born, still born.
yeah.
So we need to understand that we're giving birth to a very difficult baby. Maybe it's transverse or breech or something. It definitely seems to be coming out ass backwards.
Maybe it's because it's all of us at the same time. Maybe it's a lot to birth, you know?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So the two full moons between 1 degree and 29 degrees really, you know, is how are you making that effort? How are you dealing with the feeling of the contractions and the pain of it, even though you're not ready to really give birth just yet?
Mhm.
You know, you're not ready to push.
Right. Yeah, it's still on its
So
way.
to men who are listening,
Mhm.
too bad. You have to you have to suffer the metaphor of birth
Mhm.
because you were born. You know what I mean? Like women have had to suffer the metaphors of the masculine for the last 10,000 years. Um, so I think it's a very relevant metaphor to use for everyone because everybody's born of a woman. Everybody's born of those contractions.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
you
very
know,
powerful metaphor, yeah.
yeah, and for, like you said, even the baby within the birth canal has to go through that crushing, you know,
Hmm.
pressure as you make your.
Hmm. Though the baby's bones aren't as rigid as the mama's.
That's right.
But
Not as.
yes, I wish, you know, I don't remember what it was like, but I'm sure it's like being crushed.
Yeah, so we got our work cut out for us, I think, this next year or so. But this is a very good overview to sort of hold on to. And you mentioned that there's both a Venus retrograde and a Mars retrograde while this is all happening in the
This
mid
is in March,
year still.
not till March of 2025.
Mhm.
It's just that I'm seeing all the hookups between the 29s and the zeros,
Right.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can just hold that sort of as a framework for when we're going through things.
Yeah, and I remember in 2020 when Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted, and people were like, how long is this going to go on? And it was like 20 years, right? It's a 20-year thing. But Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted at 0 degrees
Mhm.
of Aquarius, right? It was a
Right.
very,
Right.
yeah, there's a lot to come.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
it
we're
is.
only 2 years. We're 4 years in, I guess.
Mhm.
3 years in.
Yeah. So I guess we have been through periods like this in our history as well, though. Like where it feels like it's the brink of a new era, the brink of a new age, and that's really what we're going through is a new era.
Right. I think about the fall of the Roman Empire. I think I once read a short story by Margaret Atwood about a couple, sitting around in their wealthy home, and the Goths and the Vandals are out there making their way, and there's nothing they could do but have dinner. I wish I could remember the name of the story. It was creepy, and Margaret Atwood doing her thing. It was good.
Yeah. Yeah. So um yeah, interesting. So okay. I think
Well, all
that's
right. I guess we said enough.
I think that's enough to chew on until the next full moon. So let's touch base again around the end of of the month to see what's happening on the next full moon.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a good idea. It's
Okay.
lovely to be with you.
Thanks, Julie. Thanks for your insights. Good luck.
Yeah. Blessings.